After 15 years representing Clint Eastwood, an agent wanted to double his commission. He told Clint, "You wouldn't be here without me." Clint's response became the most expensive mistake in agency history. It was June 2004, in a corner office at one of Hollywood's most prestigious talent agencies on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills. Clint Eastwood, then 74 years old and fresh off the critical and commercial success of Mystic River, was meeting with his agent of 15 years, a man we'll call Robert Morrison, who'd built his career representing major stars. Morrison's agency, Morrison & Associates, had represented Clint since 1989, handling his deals for over 24 films spanning multiple genres and studios. It had been a mutually beneficial and profitable relationship. Clint got excellent representation, Morrison got 10% of one of Hollywood's biggest stars, and everyone made a lot of money. But Morrison had decided that 10% wasn't enough anymore, not for someone of his stature. The meeting had been scheduled as a routine check-in to discuss Clint's upcoming projects. Million Dollar Baby was in pre-production, and several studios were interested in distributing it. Morrison was supposed to be going over the various offers and helping Clint decide which deal made the most sense. Instead, Morrison had something else on his mind. "Clint, before we get to the studio offers, there's something we need to discuss," Morrison said, settling into his leather chair with the confidence of someone who thought he held all the cards. "Something about our arrangement that needs to be updated." Clint looked at him with that neutral expression that people who knew him had learned meant he was paying very close attention. "I've been your agent for 15 years, Morrison continued. "I've negotiated every major deal you've done since Unforgiven. I've helped build Malpazzo Productions into one of the most respected production companies in Hollywood. I've protected your interests, gotten you the best terms, made sure you maintained creative control on every project." "And I've appreciated that," Clint said quietly. "I know you have," Morrison said, leaning forward, "but the industry has changed. The value I bring to this relationship has grown significantly. The deals are bigger, more complex. The negotiating is more sophisticated. And frankly, the standard 10% commission doesn't reflect the level of work I'm doing for you anymore." Clint waited, saying nothing. "I think it's time we adjusted our arrangement to 20%, Morrison said, and there it was, the demand he'd been building to for the entire conversation. "That's more in line with what top agents in this town are earning from their premium clients these days. The industry standards have evolved. When you look at what agents bring to major stars now, not just deal negotiation, but career management, brand protection, strategic positioning, 20% reflects the true value of comprehensive representation. You're my biggest client, Clint. You're the foundation of this agency and everything we've built together. And I think my compensation should reflect the crucial role I play in your continued success, the decades of relationships I've cultivated on your behalf, the reputation I've helped you maintain and grow." The silence in the office was heavy. Morrison seemed to take Clint's lack of immediate response as consideration rather than what it actually was, controlled reaction to something deeply offensive. "Think about it this way," Morrison continued, apparently interpreting the silence as an opening to keep selling. "You wouldn't be here without me. When I started representing you in '89, you were coming off some rough years. Pink Cadillac bombed. The Rookie underperformed. Your career could have gone either way. I'm the one who helped you navigate back to relevance with Unforgiven. I'm the one who negotiated the deals that let you maintain control of Malpazzo. I'm the one who's been protecting your interests for a decade and a half." Morrison pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. A new representation agreement with the commission structure changed from 10% to 20%. "This just formalizes what's already reality," Morrison said. "I've earned this, Clint, and honestly, given what I bring to the table, 20% is more than fair. Some of my colleagues think I should be asking for 25%. Clint looked at the document without touching it. When he spoke, his voice was that familiar quiet rasp that somehow carried more authority than shouting ever could. "Robert, let me make sure I understand. You want to double your commission because you feel you deserve more credit for my success." "I wouldn't phrase it quite that way," Morrison said, though that was exactly what he'd said. "I'm just suggesting that after 15 years, Our arrangement should reflect the reality of our partnership. You're one of the biggest stars and directors in Hollywood. I've played a significant role in getting you there and keeping you there. That role deserves appropriate compensation." "I see," Clint said. He stood up. "Sarah," he called to his business manager, who was waiting in the outer office. "Can you come in here for a moment?" Sarah entered, immediately sensing the tension in the room. "Sarah, please contact CAA and UTA," Clint said, naming two of the biggest talent agencies in Hollywood. "Let them know I'm looking for new representation effective immediately." Morrison's confident expression finally cracked. "Wait, what?" "You're fired," Clint said, his voice still quiet but absolutely final. "Effective immediately. Sarah will handle the termination paperwork and the transition to new representation." "Clint, hold on," Morrison said, standing up now too, the color draining from his face. "You can't just... We've been together for 15 years. You can't fire me over asking for fair compensation." "I'm not firing you for asking," Clint said. "I'm firing you for thinking you made me. I was winning Academy Awards before I met you, Robert. I was directing acclaimed films before I met you. I built Malpaso before I met you. You negotiated deals, and you were paid 10% for doing that job. But you didn't make my career. I did that through 50 years of work." "That's not what I meant," Morrison protested, though it was exactly what he'd meant. "I was just saying that I've been an important part of—" "You said you wouldn't be here without me," Clint interrupted, his tone making it clear he'd heard every word and forgotten none of them. "That tells me you've fundamentally misunderstood our professional relationship. You work for me, Robert, not the other way around. And you've been well compensated for that work. 10% of every dollar I've made for 15 years. That's millions of dollars in commissions." Morrison was desperately backpedaling now. "Clint, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I wasn't saying—" "The misunderstanding is yours," Clint said. "You thought because you've been my agent for 15 years, you had leverage to demand more. You thought I needed you more than you needed me. You were wrong on both counts." "Please, let's talk about this," Morrison said, and there was real panic in his voice now. He was watching his biggest client, his agency's foundation, walk out the door. "I'll keep the 10%. We don't need to change anything. I was just asking for what you thought you deserved," Clint finished. "And I'm giving you what you've earned with that ask. Nothing. You have 1 week to wrap up any pending business related to my representation. After that, all inquiries about me go through my new agency. Sarah will send you the termination details." "Clint, you're making a huge mistake," Morrison said, his panic turning to anger now. "I know every deal you've done. I know your negotiating positions. I have relationships with every studio executive in town. Good luck finding someone who can replace what I bring to the table." Clint looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Robert, you just proved why I'm firing you. You think you're irreplaceable. Every agent in Hollywood would kill to represent me. The difference is, the good ones know they're being paid to serve me, not the other way around." He walked out of Morrison's office, Sarah following with her notes on which agencies to contact. Morrison stood alone in his office, still holding the unsigned 20% agreement, apparently trying to process how his carefully planned negotiation had just destroyed his career. Within 2 days, Clint had new representation at CAA. Within a week, the story of why he'd left Morrison had spread through Hollywood. Morrison had told his version to a few close colleagues, trying to paint Clint as unreasonable for not accepting that agents deserved better compensation. But too many people knew the truth. Morrison had gotten greedy, demanded double commission, claimed credit for Clint's success, and been fired for his arrogance. The impact on Morrison and associates was immediate and catastrophic. Clint hadn't just been Morrison's biggest client, he'd been the agency's biggest client, the name that gave them credibility with other A-list talent. Losing Clint sent a message to every other client. This agency had failed its most important relationship. Within 3 months, Morrison lost 2 more major clients who quietly moved to other agencies, citing different creative direction, but really responding to the Eastwood disaster. By 6 months, 5 more had left, taking their considerable annual commissions with them. The exodus was partly practical. If Morrison couldn't keep Clint Eastwood happy after 15 successful years, what did that say about his judgment, his ego, his ability to maintain relationships, but it was also deeply reputational. Everyone in Hollywood knew Morrison had demanded 20% from one of the industry's most respected figures and told him, "You wouldn't be here without me." That kind of arrogance, that fundamental misunderstanding of the agent-client relationship, where the agent works for the client, not the other way around, made other clients nervous about their own futures with the agency. Morrison tried to stop the bleeding, lowering commissions for remaining clients, taking on younger talent to rebuild the roster, emphasizing his years of experience and track record. But the Eastwood firing followed him like a shadow. Every pitch meeting, every negotiation, every interaction with potential clients carried the unspoken question: if you alienated one of Hollywood's most respected stars through greed and ego, how can we trust you won't do the same to us? By 2006, Morrison and Associates had shrunk from a mid-sized agency with 40 clients to a small boutique operation with 12. The prestigious corner office in Beverly Hills was given up for cheaper space in Santa Monica. The staff of 15 was reduced to 4, and Morrison himself, once a sought-after agent whose calls were always returned, found himself struggling to get meetings with studio executives who used to court him. Meanwhile, Clint's career continued its remarkable late-period surge. $1 Million Baby, the film they had been discussing that day, won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. His new agents at CAA negotiated excellent terms, took their 10%, and never suggested they deserved credit for Clint's success. Gran Torino, in 2008, grossed $270 million worldwide. American Sniper, in 2014, grossed $547 million. Film after film, the career Morrison had claimed partial credit for, continued to flourish without him, proving definitively that Clint's success had nothing to do with Morrison's representation and everything to do with Clint's talent and work ethic. In 2010, Morrison sold what remained of his agency to a larger firm and took a position as a mid-level agent there. He'd gone from running his own agency with Clint Eastwood as a client to being an employee representing supporting actors and television writers. The fall was complete. In 2015, a film industry journalist writing a book about Hollywood agents contacted Clint for an interview. She asked about his relationship with agents over his long career and whether the Morrison firing had been as dramatic as the stories suggested. "It was very simple," Clint said. "He wanted to double his commission and told me I owed him because I wouldn't be here without him. That showed a fundamental misunderstanding of our relationship and of my career. So I ended the relationship. Nothing dramatic about it, just a business decision based on someone revealing they didn't understand the business." The journalist pressed, "Were you surprised by his demand?" "I was disappointed," Clint said. 15 years is a long time to work with someone. I'd thought he understood that an agent's job is to serve their client's interests, not take credit for their client's work. When he showed he didn't understand that, continuing the relationship would have been a mistake. Do you think the 20% demand was unreasonable?" "The percentage wasn't the problem," Clint said. "If he'd come to me with a legitimate argument for why his services had become more valuable, I would have listened. But he came to me with ego. He told me I owed him. He suggested my success was his accomplishment. That's when an agent stops working for you and starts working for themselves." The interview became one of the most quoted sections of the book because it perfectly encapsulated the lesson Morrison had learned too late. In Hollywood, you never take credit for your client's success. You celebrate it, you support it, you help facilitate it, but you don't claim you made it happen. Because when you do, you discover very quickly that they can succeed without you far more easily than you can succeed without them. Morrison's attempt to leverage 15 years of representation into doubled compensation had backfired spectacularly. He'd lost his biggest client, destroyed his agency's reputation, and created a cautionary tale that was still being told in agency training programs years later. The lesson for agents was clear. Know your value, but never overestimate it. You serve your clients. You don't own them. And the moment you forget that, you lose everything. Robert Morrison learned that lesson in June 2004 when he demanded 20% from Clint Eastwood and received 4 words in response: "You're fired, effective immediately." Those 4 words cost him his biggest client, his agency, and his career. And they reminded every other agent in Hollywood that representing a star doesn't make you a star. It makes you an employee who should be grateful for the opportunity. If this story moved you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to remember that taking credit for other people's success is the fastest way to lose access to it.